Mr. Chairman, honored speakers, distinguished guests, it's a pleasure and an honor for me to be here again. I was here in 1999, and Dr. Yahya outdoes himself every year with these conferences and topics. All due respect to you, Dr. Yahya. I am not an academic, I am not a scholar, I'm a practitioner, and what I will share with you are some of the issues that I think are of utmost necessity for us as Muslims or those interested in faith-based concepts from the financial aspect. What we need to do, there has to be what I think and what some of my colleagues have said to me, Islamic financial empowerment. In order for you to get your mortgages and your vehicle leasing and your college education loans, most of those things are not available. We all want those, but we have to demand those. So the basis of my presentation are things along those lines. This is the presentation overview. The most interesting part of this slide is religious sentiment, be it Islamic, Catholic, Christian, Mennonite, what have you, will bring the customer to the door. But if the products are expensive or if the products do not perform, they will not come inside the house. And that's what's happened. And that is what has to be addressed. The most sought after products are, let me get to the next one. Most sought after products here in the United States or in developed countries where Muslims have an established presence are home financing. Some Muslims have used the law of necessity to purchase a riba-based mortgage, hoping that a Sharia-compliant mortgage will be available, and then they can refi in a Sharia-compliant way. There is demand for vehicle and equipment leasing. There is demand for mosque financing. We did Jummah prayers at King Fahd Mosque. Last time I was here, mashallah, $12 million, but most communities would take decades to raise that money to build a mosque like the King Fahd Mosque. So to the bankers such as HSBC and Citi and wherever, this is one of the utmost needs. We need Islamic mosque financing, Islamic center financing. Property insurance. The mosques that exist today use church insurance. Church insurances are a little bit more expensive because churches have ornate glasses and a lot of expensive things internally. A mosque is simple relative to a church, so the premiums are higher. Omar Fisher Clark had done a lot of wonderful work with Takaful USA. Unfortunately, he's in Saudi right now, working with Bank Al Jazeera. Islamic investing, which I will briefly touch on, but my colleague here, Brother Aslam, will go more into detail. And Islamic charge cards. These things are important because the conventional client, non-Muslim client, has access to all these things. The Sharia-compliant customer has access to very little of these things. Facts about Muslims, everyone's heard the numbers and the figures and all this wonderful stuff. What was interesting for me in this particular slide is in the Financial Times of February 21st, Merrill Lynch is now dedicating a unit for minorities, more specifically Indians, because that's what the demographics have said about the Indian population in America. And the two quotes, and the one that is an interest to me is the minority clients may be the key to success for financial firms over the next 50 years. Implication is that affinity marketing, cluster-based marketing is very, very important. In the UK, the hot new sector, according to the Financial Times Advisor, there are 5,400 millionaires holding liquid assets of $5 billion. Western institutions with Islamic windows want to tap that. Most sought after product, as I said before, was the mortgages. Purchase, refi. Established institutions here, community-based initiatives such as what Dr. Yahya has created, MSI, Samad Group, Toronto Housing Corporation, raising money from the community, circulating it within the community. Wonderful. And the institutions such as UBK, which closed shop last year, HSBC, Capital Guidance, and our colleagues at Freddie Mac have taken an interest into this and now are coming forward with products because there is money to be made. They're not doing it for altruistic reasons. They've got budgets, they've got revenue issues they have to address. This is a viable niche market like the Irish market, like the Chinese market, or the people with pets. I'm sorry. Constraints. I want to concentrate on two things in my presentation: home financing and investing. With respect to home financing, there are a variety of products out there. There's a musharaka, diminishing musharaka, co-op musharaka, murabaha, ijara. What's the difference? What am I going to get? Can you tell what is the best for me? Some of them have not been successful. The UBK program in the UK with the Al-Manzil program had a large down payment, short payback period, and higher basis points to LIBOR, about 150 to 200. So what it was intended for, which was the masses, ended up for the high net worth individuals who may or may not be interested in this. Several Muslims have no credit or bad credit. I was involved with a venture with MEF and First USA trying to do a Muslim affinity card. The project was launched in, I think, 1999 or 2000. And one of the issues that kept coming up is Muslims have either bad credit or no credit. So alternative means had to be looked into for getting a credit profile of the Muslim. Sharia issues. One of the issues that HSBC's come up with, which has been addressed, I think, has been their scholars, Justice Taqi Usmani and his colleagues have signed off on it as Sharia compliant, but the local imam at the mosque, who really doesn't understand structure and who wants to err on the side of being conservative, says, I can't issue an opinion. The community knows the imam, trusts the imam, so relies on the opinion of the imam. That has to be addressed. Deductibility, property insurance. The demand is billions, but the supply is in millions. For example, the Islamic finance houses, they raise $5 million, $6 million from the community, but the demand is hundreds of millions, if not billions. So what happens is there's this long list of people wanting a mortgage, vehicle financing, equipment financing, and they may have to wait years and years and years. An issue that has to be addressed. Staffing, supply, training. Behind the screens, you need call centers. These are infrastructure issues that have to be addressed. And institutions such as HSBC Amana are basically establishing the model, the infrastructure model for this. Customer service support, these type of issues. Islamic funds. This is an area that I come from. Islamic funds, basically in the U.S., you've got 3 or 4 funds, but they have a measly $64 million of assets under management. Brown Brothers Harriman, as of Friday, will no longer be involved in Islamic funds. They've terminated their lease. Reason being, they couldn't gather enough assets, meaning Muslims at whatever level, retail, institutional, high worth, basically were not forthcoming with the money. Number of reasons for that. The concept of the preconditions to investing was basically pinpointed to 1987 with the fatwa of the 3 sheikhs, and as a result, in the early 1990s, you had established Western institutions opening up Islamic windows and offering funds geared towards high net worth and institutions. Key issue there is, yes, Western institutions bring credibility and legitimacy additional to this niche market, but are they mandate driven? Meaning if the mandate is taken away, they're no longer interested, or is there real commitment to addressing the needs? It's a function of time. At Dow Jones, this is one of the issues that Brother Mahmoud brought up, is the screening and some of the biases. I acknowledge that, but the scholar said, here are the screens, apply this to the universe, and here's the end result, universe. The end result has a regional bias, a concentration bias, turnover bias, backtesting, but it's Sharia compliant according to what the scholars have said. There's nothing much more we can do. However, more work needs to be done. These screens are an interim solution and not a final solution. This is pretty interesting from the point of view of the largest Islamic funds. There are 6 to 9 million Muslims here, well-to-do, probably have higher per capita income than the Muslims in almost all Muslim countries. Yet The two funds, the Amana Income Fund and Growth Fund, have a combined assets under management of about $45 million. Here, the largest funds, the largest Islamic managers, you see no Islamic bank involved, and the largest Islamic sponsors, NCB, SEDCO. What's interesting about this particular slide is you saw the number of funds increasing and then significantly decreasing from early 2000 when you had the NASDAQ going to 5,000 something to now. You have more funds, but however, there's fewer assets under management. There's been a decrease of 34%. And that has to do with redemptions and money being parked in short-term safe vehicles and asset deflation. What's interesting about this, it should be 2001, the bottom figure, is the type of products that are being launched. I think the banks and sponsors are listening to what the retail is saying. In 2000, 23 funds launched, 8 were global funds, 5 of them were capital protected or balanced. In 2001, 11 funds launched. You see 1 global equity and 5 capital protected and balanced. This is interesting for the analysis that was done by Faleka of what are the bottom lines for a successful fund, a faith-based fund, Islamic, Catholic, Christian. The 15 largest funds, these were the common denominators, and the 15 smallest funds, this was the common denominator. You have to have low minimums. For example, the Al-Ahli Global Trading Fund has got a $2,000 minimum and assets under management of $500 million. They have very little upfront loads, and they have very small management fees, and you see the end result is assets under management. When you have a high minimum, high front load, high management fees, a 4.4 million average size for AUM versus $108 million AUM. This was a sort of digression, but I thought this was very interesting. This survey was done by the Mennonite organization about faith and Wall Street, where they intersect. Mr. Chairman, how much time do I have? I have 1 more minute. Well, you can have my slides later. Bottom line is, why haven't expectations been built, have not been met? Distribution issues, no load, marketing. It's a concentration of pure equity. There's no Islamic bond, Islamic money market, Islamic CDs yet to have a diversified portfolio. Islamic funds, are they ahead of their time? It seems like there's a lack of interest. Why? Are there opportunities in the Muslim countries? 56 Muslim countries, 30 have stock exchanges, 10 allow foreign direct foreign portfolio investment. Saudi is a market that you have to go through a fund to invest for non-GCC investors, and therefore the conclusion is very few opportunities there because there's been a massive amount of capital flight from the Muslim countries. What can be done, I think, do not wait for the Islamic banks to set up shop here. The Islamic finance houses have done a wonderful job, but capital constraints have been one of the biggest obstacles. The Muslim banks who have established branch offices here offer affinity-based Muslim conventional banking or community banking, LCs, travelers checks, remittances, no Islamic community banking. These are the things that have to be done. Otherwise, what the end result is, be marginalized. In 1996, I heard the figure of $150 billion and growing 15% per annum. We sponsored a conference last week in Dubai, and the same speaker said $150 billion and growing at 15% per annum. What are the implications? If it was $150 billion in 1996, growing at 15% per annum, it should be over $1 trillion. It's not. And are there really 1.2 billion customers? I think sub-Saharan Muslims have more pressing need of meeting their daily survival than interest in Islamic finance. So bottom line, Islamic financial empowerment, more needs to be done. Assalamu alaikum.